Hello guys, welcome back. We're going to try this again. I have a very special guest on today, Nat. She is going to join us very soon. We just had some technical issues. So this is round 2. Nat is she's joining right now. Great. I'm going to So Nat is a women's health practitioner, and she has her own business. She runs programs. She educates thousands of women on how to manage their health and how to actually thrive in their bodies. I see right now there's a lot going on in terms of managing period pain and educating women on this, which for me, I have some personal questions, by the way, so I'm definitely going to use this podcast for my own benefit down the track, and I have a question for you on that. And Nat is not only an incredible practitioner, but she's also an amazing businesswoman, and she also is just so energetic, so vibrant. And I did a podcast with her a few weeks ago. I was like, this woman is self-actualized, and I'm super interested in self-actualization. So I asked Nat to come on board and share with you guys not only the health aspects of things, but also building a business and the foundations of what we actually need to have in place to become self-actualized and to have a satisfied life, to feel content, to feel energized, to feel present, to be in love with life. So welcome back, Nat.
Thank you. I just want to double check that you can hear me.
And it seems like your reception's quite good now. So whatever we did, it worked.
I'm going to stand on one leg and turn around
and
touch
what
my toe.
it is. I do find that the best strategy sometimes is just turn it off and start again. And works 99% of the time. So Nat, maybe you could actually share a little bit about your business and about what you do.
Sure. Well, there's many facets to that. Fundamentally, my background is Chinese medicine, and I have been a practitioner for 19 years, which sounds like a really long time. And it just, as cliche as it is, it feels like yesterday. But in that time, we've really been in a position I've been fortunate that various arms of the business have grown in various directions. So maybe they're not arms, maybe they're more like, I don't know, tentacles, or roots with branches. But we've been lucky enough to create various facets to help to continue to go on and support women in their health, whether that's through various books we've written, podcasts, other platforms, and then also to branch out in helping other practitioners to support them in their businesses not to make the same mistakes, because let me tell you, I've made loads of them, and that doesn't mean that there hasn't been successes as well. But I think like any business owner, and especially in the world of health, most of us sign up to help people with their health, but we're not actually business minded. So there's that hard part where, you know, you're torn between what you have to do to sustain a business and what you're qualified and skilled to do. And so really trying to bridge all of those things has been something that, I mean, I think it's a lifelong effort that has to be made.
What do you think it is about you and your business? Because there are a lot of businesses that they don't last so long, or women or anybody get burnt out. And what is it about, what do you think that you have or you've implemented that has created this sustainability and also created a life for you? Where I asked you the other day, you must be really busy, and you said, not really, I just have a well-oiled machine. You know, that you're also like, you're moving quickly, but you're not puffed out. Like, you have other aspects of your life that are fulfilling you. You have children, you have family, you have friends. So what is it that you have managed that creates this kind of a business and life for yourself?
I think we get to evolve and grow with our businesses, and we have to continually reassess what that looks like. So I think for me, you know, and that can be interesting because as a young person in business, when I was that young person in business, I guess I probably did look to what other people were doing and think, oh gosh, you know, there's all these layers to that. I certainly didn't go from being a business owner, podcaster, author, speaker, mentor. That didn't happen all at the one time. And I think being able to continue to grow and evolve is very important. So setting up the practice took a good 10 years to get to being something that was well-oiled. And that was around that time that then we went on to add in, the next thing we did is created an online TV show, which at the time no one was doing. And we probably had, we had stayed doing that, that would have been a very different scenario. But anyway, so then we added to that, and then that led to me then being able to become a published author. And then on top of that, we've created the podcast. And that, again, we've had the podcast for years and years. I know it's podcasts are a lot easier to produce nowadays than they were even 5 years ago. So it's all been an evolution and a process. I think for me, what I continue to think about is how do I repackage information and share it in a different way that's going to resonate with different people? Because that's just the nature of how we are as humans. We're all different. We all absorb information differently. So it's been a process, and I get to grow with it. And I think that's the most important thing is every time you feel like, I used to feel like a failure because I constantly felt like I had to keep reassessing. And why was it that I had to keep on reassessing, and why couldn't I just get there? And then one day I had this epiphany that it was like, that doesn't even exist. It is actually the reassessing, which is almost like scaffolding to then take you to where you need to go next. And you're going to keep on scaffolding and growing. And so when I realized that, I let myself off the hook that I actually was listening to my business, was listening to the consumer, and was listening to my heart in terms of what needed to happen next in that evolution. And it's going to keep on doing that. And that's just part of actually being, I think, actually smart.
So what I'm hearing is, this is really fascinating because I hear this a lot. I also work with business owners and especially young businesses. And there's a frustration of, oh, I just want to have it nailed down. And what I'm hearing is you had this frustration of, I just want to know the formula and have the formula so then it's done, so then that's sorted. But it was an acceptance of, oh no, there's constant evolution, and the acceptance of that, you let go of the resistance, and then you're able to move with it fluidly without having the pain around moving and evolving.
Absolutely. And I think when we can we can definitely look at all of the 15-year overnight successes that are out there, can't we? Like, and it's difficult when you're watching everybody else. My advice there is we can learn from other people, but it's never going to be it needs to be your way. You need to grow with it. And that's what makes it unique for you. And that's what makes it special. And that's actually what attracts people to whatever it is that you're doing, is that you're going to do it in a different way to me. And that's perfect. The other thing that I want to say is that I live by the mantra, better done than perfect, because how do I even know what needs to happen if I don't even put it out there in the first place? So being completely fine with making a mistake, being completely guided by what other people need in terms of them as a consumer. I think that's also very important. We think we know what other people need, but one of the things I think makes a practitioner actually good in business is we have to listen to our patients. So because we get very hopefully we get very good at listening to our patients, we can then listen in other areas of what needs to happen rather than being reactive. We actually listen, and then we can make a choice and react based on what we're hearing. And I think that's actually to the credit of, this is where practitioners can excel in business, is we've got other skills we can bring to this where we're good at listening. And so if we're good at listening and then finding a solution, how do we offer some of that listening and stillness and inject that into a business sense, not just into a practical sense within the clinic walls?
So
of treating
on a
somebody.
practical level, how do you do this? How do you listen to your patients and your audience? Do you ask them a question on Instagram? Like, what are you actually doing to listen to?
Well, yeah, I think in the first place, it's looking for where the common themes continue to show up. So whether that's something that is common that you're seeing with patients that you might be able to build into your business because all of a sudden you've seen, out of 60 people, 50 of them have had a thyroid problem, let's say. It's like, well, hang on a minute, I'm repeating myself over and over again. Perhaps I could create a program around this that's going to help people. And it's also going to help you not to have to say the same thing 50 times. So that could be one way that you might be able to listen to what the patients are needing. But to your point as well, absolutely, ask for feedback, learn what people need. What I've also learned is, and this is difficult too, in a healthcare setting, people still want an experience no different to when they walk into a shopping center and want an experience. Like, we are so experience-based with what we do that we're looking for that everywhere. So if the experience isn't there from the minute someone decides that they want an appointment, then the consumer isn't going to necessarily get the outcomes. Even though it's about health, it's still about the experience that you're taking somebody through. And so you want that feedback, and we need to listen in that respect as well. And you can absolutely survey your audience. You can absolutely survey your customer base. What do they want? What are they looking for? What topics do they need sorted? Where are their biggest struggles right now? So much feedback comes from that to continue to allow you to serve.
And I would love to know that.
Audience.
How do you create an experience for your clients? Like, what do you do that's unique or that makes them feel like, what is it that's important to people? Is it community? What are the aspects?
It's very interesting because I almost want people, by the time they're picking up the phone to call the clinic to have an appointment, that's a yes or no answer. They actually either want it or they don't. But to pair it right back, they've obviously found us somewhere, whether it's on Instagram or a podcast like this or standing on a stage. They've already started the experience at that point. And recognizing that every opportunity that I get to share, just like this, that starts off the curiosity, which then can spark the experience. So we live in a very interesting world where we're always on show to some degree, whether it's to your patients, whether it's to your family members, whether it's to your colleagues. People are always watching and observing. And so I think being mindful around that actually is a starting point. And as you grow and as your community grows and as your following grows, there are more and more people watching, which means more and more accountability. So the experience definitely starts then. And I really love to educate people wherever I can. So I guess there's a level of expectation that comes with that when it comes to the experience, that they are expecting something. But I also, what I offer them is that nurturing from the minute that they walk in the door and the experience that they have when they're in the clinic, the listening skills that we offer. And I'm so big on communication with my staff. Like, if you can't communicate with a patient, then I find that the outcomes are never going to be as good, even though you can have all the skill on the planet. You can't actually enroll the patient into what that is, then they're not going to get that experience, and they're not going to get the outcomes. And then it's, what do we offer when we treat them? What do we offer when they leave? How do we allow them, or how do they feel when they leave? And then that continues, because it's not just, we don't offer a one one-hit wonder service. People are going to need support over, depending on what they're coming to see us for, over time. So there's that aspect too. And then we're offering many other places that they can continue to feel supported, whether it's through online programs, or Instagram is another great place to just show up and share.
Nat, I'm imagining like your tentacles, as you said before, kind of like holding people, their whole journey. Like you have thousands of tentacles, and each one's holding a person throughout their journey with you. And you do energetically, it sounds a little bit esoteric, but energetically you have a very maternal energy about you, and it feels like naturally when I go to your Instagram, I straight away feel like, oh, this woman really cares. And you're also providing a lot of information, like you're not holding back from the how. When I scroll through, I can find lots of ways, for example, how to manage period pain. You have tips. You're not withholding information. You're very giving and very open. And what has been your experience as a business owner? Because there is an idea of, okay, don't tell people the how. Don't give them the how for free. That's something that you just say what the outcome is going to be, and then you give them the how in the programs or in the one-on-one sessions. What's your feeling around that?
I think the more, in my experience, the more I can give, the more trust that I build. And for the right people that need to then consult one-on-one, they will. And if somebody is smart enough to figure it out because I've given them all of the information, then they deserve to actually go and implement that, because they've figured that out.
Right? For somebody to actually go through and gather all the free information and put it together, and it takes a lot of time.
And so if you've got time to do that, that's so great. Like, I really am here for that. I have no issues. I left behind the cloak and dagger approach years ago. It's energetically is not welcoming. It doesn't invite people in to your space. And in my experience, the more that I can build trust, the more that I can give, the more I'll get back. So, and I don't necessarily give more to get back more. I just know that energetically that's how it works. So turning in that nurturing to how many people can I actually help? How many people can I get to understand something? And the other thing I will say is, nobody wants to be preached to. They don't want to be told what to do. And I think this is why this might resonate with a lot of people, is the information that I share really sparks curiosity and allows people to uncover things for themselves, rather than feel like they're a naughty student that has done the wrong thing and don't do this and don't do that. It's more about, these are the things that could help you, and these are the reasons why. Or asking questions. Have you thought about X, Y, and Z? Not, you need to think about this. You know what I mean? It's like a very different place to operate from. And it is difficult as a new business owner, because part of us thinks, oh, I don't want to give all my information away. I need people to come and see me. And I understand that, but that's not how it works. Not how it works at all in my experience. So really being able to trust, there's a level of trust that comes with that, but that's also just in the surrender of releasing that information. And like I said, the more that you can share in various ways, the more you become the go-to person at the front of people's minds. When you hear, at the moment, if you're at a dinner party and somebody said next to you, oh my goodness, my period pain's next level this month, you'd be like, oh, I know what you actually need to do. You need to go and follow Nat Kringoudis, because she's talking all about this at the moment. Because I've shared it so many times that you're like, oh, that's the person right now, because I'm front of mind for you. So how can I be front of mind for people in a way where they can action something today? They don't need an appointment to action something and feel better. And then should they not actually feel better, that's when they want to come and see you as well. So it's
now,
sort of, it just has a ripple on
exact thing. I sent this because a friend of mine was saying she had period pain. I was like, you know, it's you might want to look into that, because I learned that period pain is not normal. Like, there's something going on. And then she said, well, I think it's normal. And I said, okay, sure. And then I just sent her, I mean, it was a bit cheeky of me, but I care about her, you know, she's a friend. And I when somebody tells me something that I know is flat out wrong and can help them, I'm like, I send her your latest podcast. And I was like, maybe you just want to listen to this. That's the period pain woman. She could help.
Well, it's interesting also because there's, you know, there's always going to be so many things that you can do. There's so many opinions, there's so many ways. And it's really, how do I help people to figure out or support them on what their way might look like? There's no right or wrong as such. There just is. So how do we figure out what that is for you? And how do we do that in a way where you feel empowered, where it makes sense to you, and you're not just doing something because someone said so, you're doing it because there's some logic behind it. And I think there's many things that we do, especially in health, if we don't understand health.
You just cut out for one moment. I can hear you now.
Yeah. Off. Can you hear me? Good. Yeah, so it is interesting, but I think we do need to definitely come back to how do I get the information I need, and not just be told and do something just because you were told to do it, especially if it doesn't feel right for you.
Now it just feels like a good moment for me to ask my own personal question, and somebody else has just jumped on and says, I have terrible period pain. So well, firstly, I would like to just give a pretext for a moment, and my own experience is that I'm very dedicated to my health, not because I want to spend all my time doing that, or because I'm, you know, have some strange obsession. It's because I want to be present in life, because I don't want to be worried about my health. Just like that's also why I teach finances, and because I think we shouldn't actually be worried about these things, because they should be sorted. It's kind of like the foundations of that we need to have, so then we can be present, we can have amazing relationships, we can create. So for me, health is huge. I'm always like finding ways to incorporate it in a way that's easy and effortless, where I'm not tight about things, because I tend to sometimes in the past get obsessive and extreme about things, where I can still be relaxed about it. So for me, I'm big on the liver. I'm always cleaning out the liver, and that's my focus at the moment, to help with period pain. And I was diagnosed with endometriosis, had terrible period pain my whole life, was told that the only thing I could do was go on the pill or get surgery, like I'm sure many other women have been told as well. And I kind of clued on after being on the pill for 15 years, oh, this is not great for my body, and started to do more natural practices, which are slow, just like building a business can be. It takes time, and you need to be patient and have ups and downs. And sometimes you feel like, is this even working? Like, is there even any point in continuing to doing this? So for somebody who's struggled with period pain for pretty much their whole journey of having their period, this affects every part of your life, because I mean, it's also maybe 2 days a month. That's 24 days a year, plus the PMS before that. That's a big chunk of your life, like that you're dedicated to feeling pretty awful. And so what would I know you have a lot of on Instagram, but what would you tell somebody who's new to this? What would you say to them?
Well, I will first and foremost say no pain is normal, and it's always a sign and some type of warning sign, usually, to have a look as to why it might be there. And I think what we fail to look at so often is the why. And I would encourage anyone to ask the question with whatever they're faced. You know, I have a headache. Why do I have a headache? Like, why would that be happening? I mean, the most obvious thing for a headache is, am I dehydrated? But then the next question would be, well, is it in line with my cycle? Is it happening at the same time every month? And just really looking into what that might be. Or am I stressed, or am I tired, or what are the reasons? Because we can't fix something if we don't know why it's happening. When it comes to period pain, endometriosis and adenomyosis, I think the main things I really want people to understand is, yes, it is a genetic predisposition. It's something that you're genetically predisposed to, but it doesn't mean it has to develop. If you can put your body in the right environment, or create the right environment internally, then you've got a chance that you can at least manage it, if not get your body to a point where it's actually not something that you're dealing with. So I like to pair it back to something like eczema, because I think most people don't take, unless you've got horrific eczema, most people can relate to eczema or acne, something that's inflammatory. It's triggered by inflammation in the body. And you can understand that, you know, when I was a young little girl, I had eczema. My mum worked out what was triggering that in terms of nutrition, lifestyle, environment. And I didn't have eczema until I moved out of home. And then when I moved out of home and I started burning the candle at both ends, and my nutrition wasn't great, and I just lived my best life, my eczema came back. Now, does that mean that I was healed and then not healed? And then we love this idea of being healed of something. It just meant that my body wasn't flared and I was living without any evidence of that being an issue. It still had an underlying predisposition there. If I put enough, I call them triggers. If there's enough triggers, it gets turned on. Our job is to turn off the triggers so that it gets turned off. And so for something like period pain and endometriosis specifically, a few things we need to understand. What is the optimal environment that we can create so those triggers are turned off, or at least lessened? And there's a couple of factors with that. We know where there's inflammation, there's pain. So we need to reduce inflammation where we possibly can. Now, stress is inflammatory. Certain foods we need to eat are inflammatory. Our environment can be inflammatory if there's a lot of mold or toxins. So how can we clean the things up that we can control? Because there are some things that we also can't control. The other thing that with endometriosis especially is it's generally driven by excess estrogen in your body. And so if you've got too much estrogen, it feeds the endometriosis. It doesn't cause it, but it'll contribute to it worsening. So how do I get my body to better regulate estrogen? How can I look at things that drive estrogen crazy in my body? So this could be certain foods, alcohol, soy products. It could be stress drives estrogen crazy. It could be certain chemicals that you're exposed to also that mimic estrogen. And then it can also be the internal mechanism. How well is my body metabolizing my hormones? How well is my liver detoxifying my estrogen? And how much am I moving, or how adequately am I moving my bowel to make sure that estrogen is eliminated? And so if you were to start with looking at reducing inflammation, regulating estrogen better, you've created two really big variables to start to help you manage your endometriosis better. The other thing I want to say with estrogen is that it's a feeder. So our point is that if we actually regulate it and we reduce that, you can also allow your body to have an environment where it can be put into a place of repair. But we can't flare and repair at the same time. Those two things don't exist. So whatever's flaring something needs to be addressed first. And then we can create an environment where repair can happen, which is when we actually get to a point of living without evidence of any challenges like endometriosis. So there are two things. I say, if you can look at your bowels as a starting point and make sure that you're moving them adequately, a good motion every day, that's going to have a tremendous impact on your endometriosis. It's not the only thing, but if you're looking for somewhere to start, I would absolutely start there. And then, of course, you mentioned that the podcast this week is talking all about that. And we have a masterclass as well that teaches women all of those things so that they can actually take some control back, put the steps in place. And then if we do that over a period of several menstrual cycles, we can kind of see what we're left with and whether that's been enough to allow somebody to flip their body into a state of repair, or maybe they need a little bit more. And that's when I would then say, okay, you've done as much as you can. Now let me help you one-on-one at this point. But the foundational piece is really important, which is why I put all that information out there, because if you're not doing that and you come and see me, I'm going to get you to start there anyway. So I'm giving away the secrets, because I do want people, I genuinely want people to live their best life.
Nat, I love to know the how. So when you say to have your bowel moving, what do you mean by this?
So a good bowel motion is literally something that shouldn't take any more than 3 or 4 minutes. And it shouldn't be, you know, you kind of want the Goldilocks of a bowel motion, which is, this is, you know, not fun stuff to talk about. It's a bit gross, but it is the fact of the matter. And so do you need to increase? One of the things that I would say is most people need to eat more fiber, and drink more water. The fiber isn't just there to make you go to the bathroom. Fiber is a binder, and excess hormones will bind to fiber and then you will move it out. Fiber is also great. Various forms of fiber are also great for gut function, for liver function. So if you started by increasing fiber and having that at the beginning of every meal, that could look like a handful of almonds. It could look like some veggies at the beginning. It could look like a carrot. It could look like some popcorn, depending on what your nutrition allows. You don't need much, but it will absolutely help for you to start to support your digestive system better, and then allow you to get a better bowel motion as well. So I'm not talking about relying on something like a laxative to have a bowel motion, but I am definitely one to say, if we increase fiber and we increase water, that's actually going to have a profound impact if you're not doing that.
Thank you so much. And one thing you mentioned is carrot, and I did read and a few times that raw carrot binds excess estrogen to eating raw carrot.
Yes. Well, because it's fibrous. So does slippery elm or psyllium or asparagus or popcorn or all these foods I'm mentioning, because it's high in fiber. So it'll absolutely.
All right. And Nat, how can people find you?
Oh, yeah. My website is in my bio, but also it's natkringoudis.com if you're listening and you're nowhere near being able to click a bio. And I love to talk with people on Instagram. So hanging out and answering questions, and I tend to show up there every day. So that's somewhere you can come and hang out and ask questions as well.
And you have a masterclass. Can you share a little bit about how people can join if they want to join your masterclass, or if they want to work one-on-one with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, everything is mostly in Instagram in my bio there, but also on my website. If you go there, all roads lead to Rome. So you'll see the masterclasses listed there. And we actually offer an up level to that. We now have a membership where you can access all of the masterclasses, and continue to be part of the community to get the answers that you're looking for, but all the while have the support that you need.
Thank you so much, Nat. I appreciate it. And I just got so much out of this, and I hope other people did as well. So I hope to talk to you again soon.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me.